If you are looking for the test-taking secrets that will help you ace every exam with ease, then you are in the right spot. Now, unfortunately, so many students spend hours studying for their exams only to get mediocre results, and I don't want that for you. And for the past few years, I've tried a whole bunch of test-taking strategies to figure out which ones actually work. And in this video, I'll be showing the testing strategies that I've used that'll help you reduce test anxiety, get those A's, and absolutely pulverize your exams. The first piece of brutal testing advice is to just ask your teacher for the testing structure. Now, this might sound really obvious, but it's really surprising how many students don't just go to their teacher's office hours to get additional information on the exam. Now, I get it, talking to your teacher can be really scary and really awkward. But if you take the initiative and genuinely show your teachers that you really want to do well in a class, they're more than likely going to be willing to give you extra information on the exam and the kind of structure that you can expect. I did this with my teachers all the time, and when you just go to their office hours and genuinely let them know that you want to do well on the exam, they're usually more than happy to help you out and give you some of that sweet secret test knowledge. Unless they're a jerk about it, which is just kind of mean. And if that's the case and they aren't willing to give you any extra info, then you can usually get by with just asking them about the length of the exam and the types of questions that you can expect. This way, even if you don't know exactly what the test is going to be on, you still have a pretty good idea about what you can expect, so you won't be blindsided on test day. And in the end, getting on your teacher's good side is always going to be a positive. Man, I am really a teacher's pet, huh? Now, the second brutal tip will help you do even better on your exams and help to reduce test anxiety, and that is take tons of practice exams. Now, practice exams are literally one of the most overpowered techniques to do well on your tests. And if your teacher is one of those cool teachers, they might even give you a study guide that closely mimics what the test is going to look like. Or you can try looking up previous exams online from other students, or you can use a service like Khan Academy. Now, while practice exams are an extremely powerful active recall technique, the biggest mistake I see students make is that they take these exams passively. What I mean by this is that they treat these exams like they would any other assignment, maybe doing different problems at random times or looking up the answers to problems that they aren't totally sure on. Now, this drastically decreases the effectiveness of these exams, because the point of these practice exams is to replicate the test as closely as possible. So when you are taking your practice exam, find yourself a quiet room and then give yourself the same amount of time to finish the practice as you would on the actual day of the test. The idea is that you want to replicate the testing environment as closely as possible so that you'll be in that test-taking mode. Then after you're done, that's when you can look at the answers, see what you got wrong, and then use this as a basis for what you still need to review. And if you can, take as many practice exams as possible using this technique. This way you can get a really great feel for what your strengths and weaknesses are. And you'll start to realize that most exam questions are the exact same, just with slightly different wording. And once you spot these patterns, you'll be zipping through these questions like a machine, and you won't be fazed by anything that comes up. Now, to really reinforce these concepts, we get onto the third brutal technique, which is to teach the concepts to someone. Now, I know we all hate it when the test asks us to show our work, but we can actually use this to our advantage. Most of the time, it's really easy to think in our heads that we understand a topic fully, but when asked to explain our reasoning to someone, we start to realize that we may not know nearly as much as we thought we did. So on your practice problems, try verbally talking through the answer to your problem and get into the nitty-gritty of the formulas and how you got to your final answer. Now, ideally, you would do this with another person who can ask questions and also clarify you on certain topics. But even just explaining your answer to something like a stuffed animal can help you to reap the benefits as well. The idea is that you want to explain the concepts like you would to a 10-year-old, and if you can't explain it in simple terms, then you probably don't understand it well enough, and you should go back and review your notes. This method is fantastic for finding gaps in your knowledge, and honestly, it's just kind of fun to talk to a stuffed animal.
Oh yeah, I definitely have friends.
Now, the next tips that I'm going to give you will help you get a clear mind during your exam and help you ace it with ease. Now, the first thing you need to do when you get your exam is to get a feel for the test landscape. Once you get your exam, quickly look through the entire thing so you can get a better sense of its length and how difficult it actually is. This is also so you don't get surprised by the dreaded feeling of having extra questions on the back. Because trust me, I've been there before and it sucks. Now, ideally, the test should look nearly identical to the practice exam, but if not, your ultimate goal should be to figure out how difficult each question actually is so you can allocate time to each one. Now that you have a feel for the exam, it's time to remove the fluff. Now, especially for story problems that are math and science based, it's really important to realize that your teacher is probably kind of lazy, since the questions you'll do are probably just clones of what you've already done before, just with different numbers and with different terms. So on each question that you have, immediately highlight the numbers and any formulas you'll need to use. Also, make sure to read the last sentence very carefully, as many questions will often ask you to use a certain formula to solve the problem. This way, you'll only be using the information that actually matters, instead of thinking stupid stuff like, why on earth does Jimmy need 100 watermelons? Now, if you're doing a multiple choice, my advice is to trust your instincts. Now, there's no worse feeling than doubting yourself for an answer and then feeling the need to switch it at the last possible moment. In my experience, the best thing to do is to eliminate 2 of the choices that you know aren't correct. After that, your first guess is usually the best guess. The rule that I've made for myself is something that I've dubbed the change rule. Basically, I only change my answer if I'm 75% sure that I got it wrong, or I read something incorrectly in either the problem or the answers that changes the context of the question. If none of these things are satisfied, then I just stick to my answer and move on to the next one, because you need to be saving all the time that you can get. My last tip to help you during the exam is to always check your work. If you can, you always want to check your work at the end of your exam to make sure that you didn't miss anything and that you applied all of your formulas correctly. However, the change rule still applies here, and you should only be changing your answer if you missed something important or you genuinely did something wrong. Otherwise, you should be good to go in and hand in your test with the confidence that you probably did an amazing job. Now, the last tip that I'm going to give you is to just relax, bro. I know that tests are scary and that you really want to do well on them. So before your test, take deep breaths and give yourself positive affirmations that you studied really hard and that you're going to ace your exam. Now, I know it sounds cheesy, but our performance is often correlated with how much we believe in ourselves. So if you remind yourself of all of the hard work that you've done, you're probably going to be in a really great spot to do well on your test. Now, these were the brutal testing tips that helped me ace my exams. And if you take the time to implement these techniques into your routine, I have no doubt that you'll be acing your exams with ease. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. But thank you so much for watching. Go out and ace your exams, and I'll see you in the next one.